In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create a full circle here while have only one data point, as you can see here, for every data set. And when we hover over a data set, it will show the value in the very center. So let's start to look how to do this. So to do this, the first thing what we need is our boiler template, which you can find here on chartjs3.com getting started. Once you're on here, scroll down and copy this chunk of code and you're good to go. Next, if you want to have the source code of this video and many others, check out my Patreon page. And of course, if you have a question, put it on Discord. All the links are in the description box. First, what I want to do in this case is convert this into a donut chart. So you're going to see here, scroll down on the type, Doughnut. Let's save that, refresh. There we are. Remove the scales. Like that. We can just leave it like that. Save, refresh. Alright. The next thing what I want to do is I want to remove the legends here. So I say here in the options, we're going to say plugins. And I say here legend. And display equals false. Save, refresh. Now it is all cleared out. So to have basically one data point and while everything else invisible, we'll be using some tricks on this because it cannot work without the trick. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm just going to copy this one, another one of this, copy this entire data set, and then say here, comma, paste that in there, save, refresh, there we are, now we have two. And now what I want to do is basically here, I'm going to put in here a single value, which is a value 1. Doesn't really matter what you want, but this is fine. The label, I'll just even hide this. We don't need this at all. For this one here, I do want a single value, and let's say this will be number 18. So save that, refresh. So as you can see here, we have two items, but for this trick, I will make one almost hidden or invisible. However, we'll be needing the full circle for that, and I'll show you later on why. So what I'm going to do here is let's make this transparent. So say for the border, transparent, comma, copy this and put it in here. And then maybe just for now here, I'll make this black to show you why. Let's save, refresh, there we are. So as you can see here now, it is still a little bit visible, but basically it's just the thickness here that makes it visible. So what I'm going to do now is put a comma in the first data set, say comma here, and then we're going to say here cut out percentage or cut out. I'm going to say here 100%. Let's save that, refresh, and as you can see here, it is now shrink to this final line here, and that's the only thing we need to use as a trick or else it will not work. So this is the only thing we can do, and I cannot find any other way at the moment. However, we'll continue on from this point here. So we could hide this by saying here 0 or make it transparent. There you are, and now it is just invisible. Even if I try to find it and hover over it, I don't even know where exactly I have to hover, it doesn't trigger. What I do want here is just only a single slice. So for this, I'm going to use two more data sets. I'm going to say here, copy. Say comma, paste, and then I'll say here, this will be the black cells, and the reason why we all have here the black border color and the black background color. This one here, let's say this is 30, and I'll be using later on the numbers, or I will explain later on why. And this one will be 45. So the starting point will be 45 seconds out of a minute. This here, give it blue. And the reason why is we're going to use here the blue color. That is the second one. So everything else will be removed except the second one. So here, delete this and delete that one. Save, refresh. There we are. So what we could do here is to make it border radius, to make it a bit round. So what I will do is, this will probably make more sense just to go in the options. And then say border radius. There we are. And give the border radius a 20 pixels, for example. Save, refresh. By doing that, it will apply on every data set. But of course, if we have something specific, like this here, this cut out percentage here, it will overrule the general options. So the specific on the data set overrules everything else. And you will see that here as well. We say comma, cut out percentage. Let's make this 90 so it's nice and small. And this is of course a string value. Make sure I have a comma, save. There we are. All right, that's to be honest too tight. Let's give this 80. There we are. Next, what I want to do is I want to have the border colors, or border color should be white, I guess, and we have some more space. So what I'm going to do here is comma border width. We'll set this on 3, and I say here border color, and I'll make this white. And there's a specific reason for that. I'll show you later on. Make sure I have a comma here, save, remove these two here, remove these as well, and finally the border width, I guess all the border colors here, save, refresh. As you can see here now, if I do this, but I still have this hover effect here that I want to remove. So to remove that hover effect, I'm just going to do in here the hover border color, and that will be white as well. So this was the whole reason with overlapping items if you have 2 items or 2 data points. But what I want to do is only 1 data point, but we have so far only this. So how do we control now the value we have? So for example, this value of black is 30. So what I want to do is from here all the way to there, it should show, but everything else should be skipped. Next, for blue, 45. I mean, here is at the quarter because we have 60 seconds. So this is in the last 45 seconds or the last 15 seconds of this point here, it should show. And this one 18 would calculate whatever is necessary. So to do that, I'm going to work here, and let's start with the black cells first. So what I'm going to say here, enter. And then what I want to do here is I'm going to go here in the circumference. And the circumference, well, if I do here, let's say 90, and save that, refresh, what will happen? It will define the size of how big this is. So this is all fine. However, if you would have this one, let's cut it out, all in here, put a comma here, save, refresh, you will get this. The only reason that this is not showing right now is because the last one here will have a circumference of 360, basically the full circle. And because of that, we have these normal position. So that is the reason why we're using the trick here, because you will see here that if this is 1, that's why. All right, so there's a whole mindset of that trick. So for the circumference, what I really want is I don't want it here. I want the circumference being calculated because I don't want, well, 30 in this case should be a 50%. 45 should be this quarter, and 18 should be whatever it would be. So we have to calculate that. So let's start to calculate these items. So I say here circumference, and then what I want to do here is say ctx, and then we're going to create a function error expression, and then we're just going to build on it. So what I want to do here is, let's show you first, console log, ctx, save, refresh. All right, it doesn't show one of them, but don't worry, it is being recorded here. You can see here the index, the data set, and the data value. So basically, the data set will get the one where it is in. So how do we get that? ctx.dataset.data index 0, if I'm not mistaken, refresh, 30, 30. All right, so we're getting this value. So what I want to do now is convert this value into a percentage. So it's a constant percentage equals this value divided by 60. And once we do that, we will get a half, and that half is 50%. So we can use that 50% of the 360 circle or the angle, and then we have the full circle. So what I want to say here is return 360 and then multiplied by percentage. Let's save that. Refresh, and as you can see here, while this is correct, it is eventually not fully correct because we need to move it to the other side. So what I want to do is let's copy this, get the rotation, and I think here later on we have to do some adjustments. But we're just going to copy this. We're going to say here rotation, and the rotation will be how much? It'll be basically the same logic. Still 60 because we're going to base it on the minute, and that was the question specifically. So what I'm going to say here, let's do this, save, refresh, and see if we're getting it. Oh, well, apparently we're just getting it. I thought we had to maybe readjust something here, but nothing at all. Let's see if this will work same with the blue one. In this case, will be in the last quarter. So we're going to save that, refresh, and there we are. All right, so as you can see here, this one is not as expected because it is doing, and that's the reason why I probably did 30. If this would be 35, it probably will overlap a bit more, as you can see here. So this one here doesn't work. So let's recalculate this here. So the circumference decides how big the rotation will be. And what I need to do is I need to calculate if this 45, the rotation should be 15 or 90%, 90 degrees. So that's 25%. So here we're just getting 50% or whatever it is, but I need to have a deduction. So what I'm going to say here, from the 360, I'm going to deduct whatever is in here. Doing that, refresh, will give us the exact amount we need and nothing more. Same logic is going to be applied here. Save, refresh, there we are, and now we get the right one, 35. All right, that's fair. You can see it should be farther than 30 because 30 was here. So if I make this 30, it should work again. There we are. There we are. Now what I want to do is I want to fix the last item here, 18. That should be also recalculated, but we can just assume to copy all of this, put it in there. Save, refresh, and now there we are, 18. That would be correct because 15 would be the quarter. So 3 seconds afterwards, I think this is quite accurate. So what I want to do next is then when we hover over these items, show it in the circle here. So I want to create a circle that calculates the item itself. So how do we do this? Well, we're going to, after the options, put a comma. We're going to say here plugins. Don't get confused with the plugins here. They're different. Then we're going to say this is an array, and then we can say here our circle label. Once we got that, copy this, put it in here. Constant circle label equals the ID of circle label, and then say before data sets, draw, chart, arcs, and plugin options. Once we have that, say ctx, and then we're going to say equals the chart. Am I correct? No, that is not. We say constant, and then we want to get the ctx. So this is an object destructure. Make sure you do it like that. Probably I'll be needing the data. I'm not sure if I need anything else, but well, we'll see later on. If ever there is, we'll see that later on. So the next thing what I want to do is because I want to draw a circle. To draw a circle, I need to have the x and y coordinates in the very center. We can calculate these quite easy if we do a console log. We're going to say chart get data set meta. And then we can see here data set index 0. Why? Because they're all the same. This is always the center that's being used. So what I want to do here is say dot data, and then 0 as well. And then since they're always the same foundation, if we do here dot x, we will get the value of x, which is 250 pixels from left going here to the right side, 250 pixels. Same if we do with y, or the right side for the y, we are going down to 50. I guess this is 500 right now, and that's why it is. There we are. You can see it's 500 pixels to be exact. Of course, this formula here of this option gives us the exact number no matter what. So as a constant x equals this, then put in here the x, constant y equals chart y. So once we have this, we can say here the following. Let's start to draw the item. Say ctx.save to save all variables above. This is very, very important for our case because I want to get the x and y. This is 250, but I'll make it very simple. I will say this x and y will be the new 0 point. So I say ctx.translate, create a new 0 point where the x, where the 0 will be the x and the y will be the x. Oh, sorry, the y is the 0 point as well. So this 250 will be now 0. So once we did this, we can now draw the arc. So say ctx.begin path to create our shape. And then we're going to say here ctx.arc. And then here, what we're meaning is the x coordinate, the y coordinate, the radius that we have to get later on, and then the angle, which is angle start, which is basically 0, so I can just put in 0 here, and then this will be the angle multiplied by 360, and I'm going to show you later on why. And the final one is false because it is not counterclockwise. So just with the clockwise, so we set this on false, so it's clockwise true. So this here is basically meaning I want to create a full circle, which is 360 degrees. Because we know this is 360 degrees, let's get the angle that we need to set here. So a constant angle equals math.pi. 1 pi is 180, so we divide it by 180 degrees. 2 pi is a full circle of 360. Where's the radius? So I'm going to just put in here 100, and later on we're going to see what the outcome is, and then I'm going to show you how we can calculate the radius. So say here ctx.fill to draw the shape. I didn't even give it a color, so we should later on give it a color. Once we're done here, we're not done this because we have to translate. So we have a save, translate, and then finally we're going to say ctx.restore, save. So once you did the restore, this is very important, so it will reset afterwards or else you'll get a weird response. Alright, so what is happening now? Y is in the corner and I realize why. We have the value here, we set it on X and Y. However, remember what I did here is to translate. I said that this X and Y will be 0. So if this is 0, it's just calling out 250 pixels to the left and downward. So if I set this on 0, and this on 0, the circle should be in the center. There we are. The next thing what I want to do here is we have this very tiny circle. I want to hover, or when I hover I want to see the text here, but I do want this to be intelligent enough to automatically be close to these circles here, and maybe cutout percent of 70 is maybe a bit more better. It's a bit thicker. There we are. So we can see a little bit more larger circle. So what I'm going to do now is just make the circle larger. And to do this, we had here this radius, what I said. The radius, I just gave it, but what I can do here is just copy this. I'm going to show you a built-in item. And I'm going to say here, this is the radius. And then what I can say here is the inner radius. However, we still have to do something. So if I do this inner radius, it will get the inner radius of the first data set, which I don't want. As you can see here, it will just get the one that is here. So if I do it on number 1, sorry, not number 1 here, that's data point. Number 1 on the data set, it will touch this one. So what I need to do is I need to make sure it is intelligent enough to figure out the inner radius of the very last item. How do we do this? Well, we can just do this with the data that we have, which is basically this here, data, and then to data sets. So what I'm going to do here, I'll say constant data set length. I need to know how many data sets we have. So it's data.data sets dot length, but then -1 or -0. So once I have that, I can basically put that in here, cut that out, put it there, and then we're good to go. If I'm not mistaken, let's save that, refresh. Oh, that is not right. As you can see here, this doesn't make any sense. It should be here, and this should be 0, of course. My bad. It should be in the last data set. There we are. Now, as you can see here, it is almost touching it, but what I don't like, I need to have a reduction of our circle. So our shape should have a reduced size. So how big should it be? It should maybe here -3 pixels. Why? Because our border width is 3. Do that. Now it looks quite nice. All right, so I'll accept that. So now what I want to do is I just want to get this value here. So what I will say here, or let's do here, comma, say options. So basically I want to say minus options dot border width. And we do that, we just go here, basically it says options and search for border width. Save, refresh. There we are. Do we see any difference? Hardly. Let's give this border width 30 and see what happens. All right, it does something, but everything is becoming extremely white, so that's why you don't see everything. Maybe if I do 10, is that maybe a bit better? There we are. All right, so you can see this works nicely. Let's continue on. What I want to do next is the final thing. When I hover, show the text inside and change the color of this one to something a bit more appropriate. Let's do that first. ctx.fill style, and then we say here the color light gray, semicolon, save, refresh. All right, that's maybe too much. Let's make it dark. Final item that I want to do, I guess gray would be more appropriate. There we are. Anyway, what I want to do next one is I want to make sure we're going to get on hover the value in here. So what I'm going to do here, before we restore, remember we had to translate, and this restore will reset the translate. So I want to keep the translate values, which is basically reassigning the values to the new 0 point, still intact, because I need to get the text in the center. So what I'm going to do here, ctx.font, I'm going to say here the font. Let's say here this will be a bold text, 30 pixels, and then we're going to say yes, sans serif, which is the basic or standard font size of chart.js. Then I'm going to say here ctx.fill style for the font color, and let's make that white. Very straightforward, nothing fancy. Once we did that, I want to say here ctx.fill text, draw the text. I'm going to say here text, and then here X and Y, which will be the 0 point because that's the exact center. Save, refresh. There we are. What I want to do is now move it into this full center and give this 50. And so what I'm going to do here for full center, say ctx.text align, and then here equals center. And then I'm going to say now ctx.text baseline equals, and then I'm going to say here middle, that's the value, save, refresh. There we are, better in the center and nicely basically vertically and horizontally in the center. Now we're done with it. What I want to do is I want to get the value of 30. As you can see here, the value of 30 showing in here. How do we do this? Well, what I need to do in here is to loop through this. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here for loop, and then say here let I equals 0. I will be equal to the length of our data set. So we're going to loop through every data set and then auto increment. And when we look through every data set, what I want to do is get the value, check on which item am I hovering. So what I'm going to say here is constant meta, I'm going to give it, and then I'm going to use this function that we have built. This function, copy, put it in here, and say here I. All right, so we got the I, and then what I want to do here is basically check when we have this I, are we active on that specific data point? So I say constant, I'm going to, or not constant, console log, meta.data, and then we say here always 0. Why? Because we only have one data point. And then we say here dot active. If it's true, it will tell us that we are hovering on a specific item. So let's say here, false, true. This one is true, true, and you can see also multiple false because it loops through these items here. Doesn't tell us which one it is. But if I would say here, if active, show the ID number or something, it will probably show. But what I want to do is I don't want to waste my time on that. I want to straight away show the text. So we have this text here. I realize we can just cut out this, put it in here, because I don't want to loop through this. This is already given. I only want to loop into this specific item, or specifically here, whatever the value is. So I'm going to copy this, go in here, and then I'm going to say here if, make an if statement, if this equals true, show this, and else don't show anything. Very straightforward. And make sure the restore is at the very end outside of the for loop, or else we will get a weird item. And then later on here, maybe just going to say this will be I to just show us if we get anything. All right, index 1, index 2, index 3. No. All right, interesting. So the reason why that happens, of course, that makes sense because I have this one here. But remember, I had here -1. So this should be smaller or equal to the very last one, which is value number 3. Then we should have number 3. Beautiful. All right, so now this works. Final item. I'm going to say here, data sets, and then we're going to say here, oh no, sorry, we don't even have to do that one, I think. Data sets, hold on, let me see if I can find that. Oh yeah, this is, sorry, dot data. Oh, and we have this here, 0. So then I should have the value. Am I correct? Yes. Somehow I was just suddenly confused, but now it works. So this looks beautiful. Are we done? I think we are, but let's do a test. What if we have a new item here, comma, say sales number 22 or whatever, 22, save, refresh. Oh, what happened? I think I forgot to remove an additional comma. Save that, refresh, there we are, 22, and 22 would be, where is that? This is 30, it's 20, I guess somewhere here. So that makes all sense, and I think we are all done, and now we're good to go. And that is it.